This pattern is not just emotional, it's neurological. Research shows that trauma rewires the brain's reward system. The same compliment that activates feelings of joy and connection in a neurotypical person might activate stress and fear in someone with complex PTSD. The amygdala, your brain's fear center, becomes hypervigilant. The prefrontal cortex, the part that regulates rational thought, gets overridden by survival instincts. So you smile and nod, but your body tightens. Your chest constricts. You feel exposed, unsafe. And afterward, you might ruminate, why couldn't I just say thank you? Because deep inside, your brain still believes compliments are traps. You're not alone. Thousands walk through life with the same invisible scars. There's the artist who hides her work because praise makes her panic. The student who deletes kind messages because they make her feel like a fraud. The partner who distances themselves the moment they feel truly loved. These aren't random behaviors. They are trauma responses masquerading as personality quirks. And once you recognize them for what they are, not flaws but survival patterns, you can start to unlearn them. Closing thought: next time someone compliments you, pause. Feel the discomfort. Don't run from it. Because that feeling, that's your trauma speaking. And just for a second, don't listen. Try saying thank you. Not for them but for yourself. Because healing begins when you let light in, even when it burns. Have you ever felt uncomfortable when someone praises you, like their words are too heavy for your chest? Like they're looking too closely at something you're trying to hide? You're not being humble. You might be protecting yourself from something much darker. When someone compliments you, it should feel like a warm light shining on your soul. But for many, that light feels like a spotlight, and under it they flinch. They look away. They laugh it off. They reject it outright. Why? Because to them, being seen is dangerous. It's not the compliment itself that hurts, it's what it represents: attention, visibility, vulnerability. People with unresolved trauma often grow up learning that being noticed meant being targeted. Maybe the only time someone paid attention to them was when they were being criticized. Or worse, punished. So now in adulthood, every kind word feels suspicious. Like a setup. Like something you don't deserve. The brain, shaped by trauma, doesn't accept praise. It scans it for danger. You might say, no, I'm not smart, or it was nothing, or you're just being nice. These aren't just deflections. They're shields. Psychological armor forged in childhood when praise was followed by betrayal. When love came with conditions. When attention turned into control. Compliments trigger something primal. They pull you into the open, into emotional exposure. And if your trauma taught you that exposure equals pain, then compliments feel unsafe, even threatening. Some trauma survivors internalize a warped self-image. If you were treated like you didn't matter, your brain etched that into your identity. So when someone tells you you're beautiful, capable, or worthy, it doesn't land. It bounces off. The message doesn't match the script you've been reading your whole life. This creates cognitive dissonance, a psychological discomfort that arises when your self-belief clashes with external feedback. Instead of accepting the compliment, your brain rejects it to preserve the internal narrative. Because that narrative, as painful as it is, feels safe. It's familiar. And trauma survivors often confuse familiarity with safety even when it hurts. Here's the psychological truth: compliments, for a trauma-impacted mind, aren't just words. They're invitations to accept goodness, to receive love, to be seen. But if you were never allowed to feel worthy, then accepting love feels impossible, even terrifying. Why does praise make your skin crawl? Why, when someone says something kind, do you feel the need to shrink, deflect, or joke it off? This isn't humility. This isn't shyness. This might be a wound in disguise. When someone compliments you, your brain goes into a panic. Nice shirt. Thanks, it was cheap. You're really good at this. I got lucky. It's not modesty. It's survival. Because somewhere in your past, praise was a trap. Maybe you were raised by someone who weaponized praise. They tell you you're amazing only to later point out how you failed to live up to it. Or worse, maybe no praise came at all, only silence or criticism or comparisons. In that environment, compliments don't feel good. They feel dangerous. Like walking into a room and hearing silence just before the scream. So now your mind has wired itself to expect the worst. Compliments create tension. You don't know how to hold them. So you kill the moment with sarcasm. Or downplay your efforts. Or change the subject. Here's the kicker. People think you're just being funny or modest, but inside it's turmoil. There's a psychological term for this: compliment rejection or praise avoidance. Studies show that people who grew up with emotionally neglectful or unpredictable caregivers often develop an aversion to validation. Because it never came safely, your mind starts to believe that being seen is a risk. If someone sees you, they might expect something from you, or they might find flaws you've hidden, or worse, they might see a version of you that doesn't even exist. So you keep yourself small, dismiss compliments, live behind a wall. But here's what no one tells you. Accepting praise is not arrogance. It's permission. Permission to heal. Permission to take up space. And when you start to let it in, even just a little, you're telling your nervous system, it's safe now. You're safe now. Because the truth is, you are not who they said you were. You are not a failure in waiting. You are not the sum of someone else's disappointment. You're someone who survived confusion and chaos. Someone whose brain did what it had to do. And now you get to rewrite the story. You over-apologize for everything. Sorry. It slips out before you even think. You bump into a chair? Sorry. Someone else interrupts you? Sorry. You're constantly apologizing, not just for mistakes, but for existing. And that is no accident. There's a reason you feel like you're always walking on eggshells. You learned early on that peace was conditional. That one wrong move could mean conflict, anger, rejection. So your brain developed a defense: apologize preemptively. Apologize constantly. Apologize, even when it's not your fault. Psychologists call this fawning, a trauma response where you try to stay safe by pleasing everyone. It's not just about being polite. It's about surviving. In homes where emotions were unpredictable, where anger came out of nowhere, or where your worth was tied to obedience, over-apologizing becomes a shield.
Why do you feel tense when someone around you is upset, even if it has nothing to do with you? Why does someone else's anger make your heart race, your stomach drop, and your mind scramble for solutions? It's not empathy. It's something much deeper and darker. Scene. You were never just a kid. You were a peacekeeper. While others your age played freely, you were hyper-aware of everyone's mood. Every sigh, every glance, every silence, it all meant something. And you knew you had to fix it, or things might fall apart. That's not intuition. That's hypervigilance, a trauma response developed in chaotic or emotionally unsafe environments. It's your brain trying to predict danger by scanning other people's emotional cues. Constantly. You start thinking other people's moods are your responsibility. If they're sad, you failed them. If they're angry, you caused it. Even if you didn't. Psychologists call this emotional enmeshment, a dynamic where your identity and sense of safety are tangled up in others' emotional states. And so, you apologize for things you didn't do. You bend over backward to soothe. You shape-shift into whatever version keeps the peace. Even if it means betraying yourself. You can't relax until everyone around you is okay. The tragedy? You weren't supposed to carry that weight. You weren't supposed to be the emotional parent, the therapist, the fixer. But no one else stepped up, so you did. Now, as an adult, you still carry it. In relationships, friendships, work, you instinctively take emotional responsibility for things that aren't yours. You feel guilty when others are hurting. You burn out trying to save them. But healing means learning this truth: you are not responsible for other people's emotions. You can care. You can support. But their anger isn't yours to fix. Their sadness isn't a reflection of your failure. You're allowed to say, "This isn't mine." And in doing so, you finally give yourself what you never had: freedom. The freedom to be without performing. The freedom to care without carrying. The freedom to feel your own emotions, not everyone else's.